Good evening, Naharia, Boker Tove in Boulder, Colorado. My name's Wayne Firestone. I'm the Executive Director of the America-Israel Friendship League, and I love birds. And if you love birds, you're in the right place today. You do not need to be an ornithologist in order to love the stories we're going to share with you, the pictures, the videos of migrating birds. As a matter of fact, I suspect many of you out there have some of your favorite birds that you might be willing to share with us. So how about in the chat, we open up with your favorite bird or a bird that you want to mention that brings you a great deal of pride and joy. You're going to hear about birds during this episode that really stand the prospect of creating history in many respects. So we have a panel today that we've gathered as people from around the world who have a great appreciation for migrating birds and birds that don't respect boundaries. They move over the border because that's what animals in nature do. The red cardinal, the American kestrel, people are writing in about. We're going to hear about lots of different birds from different parts of the world and birds that often just don't respect boundaries. We have an expert, three experts that really have not only in their own countries established themselves, but also in the region and around the world. I'm delighted to introduce to you Professor Yossi Leshem. He's a professor emeritus at Tel Aviv University in zoologist, but many of us remember him from his days as the CEO of the Society of Protection of Nature in Israel. He has the chutzpah of saying that the owl, the barn owl, should perhaps replace the dove as the symbol of peace in the Middle East. We're going to hear from him and his colleagues about why that is. General Monsoor Abu Rashid, a close friend and colleague of Professor Leshem, is with us. He is a retired Jordanian military officer who has over 35 years of service. But guess what? In addition to the uniform that he wore serving his country, he is the founder of the Amman Center for Peace and Development. He has worked on tens of different cross-border projects that promote collaboration and peace. You're going to hear about one or more of them today. Professor Imad Charakai from University Sultan Moulay Silmani in Morocco is with us as well. Don't worry, that tortoise behind him is not going to bite him in the ear. He's with us within the safe confines of an empty classroom at his university. In addition to his academic work, he has worked at several different international and regional NGOs that deal with nature and wildlife, and he is the chair of the Nature Studies Association since 2018. Let me turn over to you to Professor Leshem so everybody can make some quick introductions of themselves, and then we'll begin with this fascinating presentation that you put together. Professor Leshem, we've got your mute on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great to be with you this today with some really fantastic friends that will introduce themselves. And the first one, or the most respected one, is of course General retired Monsoor Abu Rashid. Please, General.
Thank you very much. My name is General Monsoor Abu Rashid from Jordan. I served in the army 35 years. And I established Amman Center for Peace and Development after I retired from the army in 2000. And we still working very closely with the Arabs and the Israelis for sake of peace in the region. And thank you for the organization to invite me to this webinar.
And I'm a professor, as already was said, in Tel Aviv University, and I work with the Society for the Protection for Nature as the CEO. And I think the most important point on our presentation today, I'm studying birds for 5 decades, but I think the birds can bring people together, Muslims, Jews, Christians, and that is the main story, I think, of getting people together through the birds. Imad, please.
Good afternoon. So my name is Imad Sharkawi. I am Associate Professor at the High School Technology of Hanifa at the Sultan Moulay Slimani University. Previously, I worked for BirdLife International and for WWF Mediterranean Program, and since 2018 has been chair of the Nature Solution Association. My research concerns conservation biology and particularly relationships between landscape ecology and the ecology of animal vertebrate population. I have a long interest in population dynamic. I studied, a study of species conservation status, home range, diets, breeding sexes in animal population. Much of my research has focused on functioning of bird population, used as indicators of the quality of the ecosystems. And I was born with a strong fascination for wildlife at a very young age, and I have participated in some volunteering works around the world, and I did environmental stewardship and I participated at conservation leadership program.
Okay, what I just want to say before I would start my presentation, the general and myself and the Palestinians, we are working together since 2002. And this year we are very privileged to start our project on a bigger scale and have Morocco led by Professor Chirkawi, and hopefully later he will be the key person to get also all the Maghreb countries on the project. But before we go to the Barn-Out project, I want to tell you a bit about the project I was started in 1996 under the title Migrating Birds, No Palm Trees. You see in the picture Masada, the famous site on the border near the Dead Sea, on the border between Jordan and Israel. And the big story is that our ninth president, Mr. Shimon Peres, when he came to Israel, he went in the desert in 1944, and suddenly, while they were going in the desert, a bearded vulture was flying over the head. The Hebrew, his name was Persky, Shimon Persky, when he came from Poland. And while the bird was flying over the head, this is Professor Mendelssohn from Tel Aviv University, the professor got very excited and started to shout, Peres, Peres, because Peres is the Hebrew name of bearded vulture. And Shimon Persky decided on spot to change his name from Persky to Peres, which is the bearded vulture. So Shimon Peres helped us a lot in our regional activities in the Middle East with the Jordanian Palestinians. And the question is, what is our vision in all this activity? I always like to show the picture of President Bush standing in a military maneuver in Iraq with a binocular. He looks like a birder, but he forgot to remove the cover of the binocular, as you can see here. This happened also to our Minister of Defense a few years later. So our vision is, how do we want to see the Middle East? Do we want to see it like this with all the aggression? Or what we are doing is to join Muslims, Jews, Arabs, and Israelis from Jordan, Palestine, and Israel together through the activity with the birds. The big story is that the Middle East is located in a junction of 3 continents, and about 500 million migrating birds fly over Israel and Jordan twice a year, 1 billion birds. For example, all the lesser spotted eagle population fly in 2 weeks over. All the storks, 85% of the European population, fly over Israel. Pelicans, all the pelicans of Europe and Western Asia fly about 60,000 pelicans over Israel. So the weather in the Middle East is perfect. And if you are a birder and wants to see many species, Jordan, Israel is a top place to come and visit with an excellent weather. One of the problems in the Middle East was that the farmers had a lot of problems with rodents, and they were poisoning against the rodents with pesticides, and were killing a lot of wildlife, of also of thousands of migrating birds coming from Europe and Asia over Jordan, Israel, and Palestinian Authority. So we were really worried that making all this big damage with the pesticides. And the idea that we established, and I was privileged to start it in Israel in 1983, the idea was to use barn owls as pest control agent to build their nest boxes. In every nest box, they lay eggs, and they eat between 2,000 to 6,000 rodents every year together with the chicks. So the farmers who have the nesting boxes don't have to use pesticide. They replaced it. Later on, we also got from the Ministry of Defense 2,000 ammunition boxes, and we changed to nesting boxes. So this is like the profit of Isaiah, the prophet, they're changing the swords to plowshares. And since 2008, the story of the nesting boxes became a national project in Israel. And now we have 5,000 nesting boxes over Israel. And the reduction of the use of pesticide was really dramatic and made a big change for the environment. The other issue which I want to tell you before we started with the barn owls, which are called in Arabic Buma, we started a project to put radio transmitters accepted by satellite. Angela Merkel, the Chancellor, she was the Minister of Environment. She gave us €1.5 million to follow 120 German states. And we made a big website to follow online through the satellite. We put radio transmitter on the satellite. USAID from the United States gave the money to do it also in Jordan and in the Palestinian Authority under the title Migrating Birds Know No Boundaries. The most important thing was that we have more than 300 schools in the Middle East which followed the German storks, and they came out in the field together, Jordanian, Palestinian, and Israeli. At lunchtime, the students made a break and made together lunch, so they become good friends, and this was also a tool to get students from the three countries together. But we gave the stork, the German storks, a Jewish name, Christian name, and Muslim name. And this was really an amazing story because when we started to do this, we could follow online through our website after the stork. Here you can see a German stork which migrates from Germany over the Middle East to Sudan. And there the stork stayed for two months. And then the stork moved in the middle of November till Cape Town. And this stork was called Princess. She made the same route for 13 years, every year, from Germany through the Middle East till Cape Town. And the student could follow the migrating stork all the time online, which was, of course, very exciting, and they could communicate between them. Then in the spring, the stork fly back to the same nest year after year. And here you can see a summary of 20 years of the study, where every dot is a stork. The storks of West Germany fly from Gibraltar to West Africa. Most of the German storks and Polish storks fly over the Middle East along the Great Rift Valley till Cape Town. And you can see this is an amazing cutting of edge technology. Through a satellite, we can follow every minute the stork and learn on the migration route and get the children together. We joined forces also with Cornell University, and they followed waders which are nesting in Siberia. You see all these waders are moving to Australia and New Zealand. They stop in the Yellow Sea in China for 1 week to get some more food, because this is a long journey of 11,000 kilometers. And then all these waders fly to Australia and New Zealand. They stay there all the winter, like the storks in the Middle East. And then in the spring, they fly back to their nesting grounds in Siberia. All this can be followed online by students or by nature lovers. And as you can see here, it's a fantastic way to cooperate between different countries. The same with griffon vultures, which are extinct in the Middle East. We have now only 40 pairs, and one of our griffon vultures, we put a GPS. He was nesting in Wadi Dana in Jordan, coming every day to Israel, to the Negev desert, to have some kosher meat and fly back to Jordan. So we have educational programs with the children. They can understand the griffon vulture wingspan. And another issue which I was deeply involved was the Israeli Air Force, which suffered so many 1 billion birds, and the Israeli Air Force lost 11 aircraft, 3 pilots were killed, and many collisions with very high damage. So we made, by using radars and using gliders, new maps for the Israeli Air Force where to stop flying, where the migration is going on. And immediately, since 1984, the number of collisions dropped down dramatically by 76%, saving the Israeli Air Force $1.5 billion, and of course, the life of the pilots. So in 1999, we tried to get the Jordanian generals from Turkey, from Greece, and from the United States to develop a network of radar in the Middle East and follow the birds on the entire area of the Middle East. Because of the political situation, we couldn't continue this, and this was one of our failures. We had not only success, but also failures. And for example, I wrote a book, Flying with the Birds, about this study, and we gave, in 1999, there was with President Weizmann, who was the commander of the Air Force before, and we made a ceremony in the President's house, and you see here the commander of the Air Force with the Palestinian guy, when we launched the new book. And what was really fantastic, when President Weizmann finished his kadention, he flew to Jordan to meet His Majesty King Abdullah, and the official president, from president to president, was the book on the migrating birds, which know no boundaries, with a dedication that hopefully also the people like the bird will know no boundaries and stop the aggression. Later on, in 2002, we started our contacts with General Monsoor Abu Rashid and with Palestinian, and you can see here for the Palestinian and Jordanian, for Muslim, Buma bring bad luck. The generals changed their mind to bring good luck. And I think the main issue was that suddenly hundreds of farmers from Jordan, from the Palestinian Authority in Israel, met. You can see an Israeli farmer from a kibbutz in Beishan Valley with a Jordanian and Palestinian farmer, and he's providing them in his dates very proudly. In some of the seminars, this is a seminar in Jordan, General Monsoor was leading. You can see the Israeli, Jordanian, and Palestinian dancing together. So we made posters with no Hebrew, so it will be no politics with the birds. And sometimes we have amazing issue like here, where we found already 5 nests in Israel, where the male or the female was Israeli, and the female or the male was Jordanian, and they succeeded to raise chicks. We found even bigamia, 1 male with 2 female, who succeeded to grow 19 chicks, and this is of course very difficult for 1 male to bring to his lady 19 chicks food day by day. We have Bedouins who are joining our projects and analyzing the pellets, and in the last 5 years, we also joined forces with Cyprus and Greece. You can see here the Minister of Agriculture of Cyprus, who signed a contract with us, and now also in Cyprus and Greece, they are making the same thing that we are doing with General Monsoor and the Palestinians. So this was a project which we are very proud of. Through the burnouts who are replacing the piece of dove. And I want to now to give forward the stage to General Monsoor to tell the next stages which he is leading. Please, General Monsoor.
Thank you, Yossi, very much for your presentation. You mentioned a lot of things about myself, about my Jordanian people who contribute with your project. And if you see on the screen, this is a historical picture when we signed the peace agreement between Jordan and Israel in 1994. I was in that days, I was the head of the UNSO, United Nations Truth Supervision Organization. And you can see in the picture, late Ishaq Rabin, late King Hussein, and President Clinton when they signed the peace agreement. I was one of the pillars who design and who contribute to have this agreement between Jordan and Israel. Next slide, please. Here, this is my picture with the barn owls in the Jordan Valley when we started to cooperate with our colleague in Israel. And when we start to have this kind of cooperation, you cannot start it immediately. You have to pave the way to build a trust between the two partners. The two partners, they fought each other many years. And after they signed the agreement, the peace agreement, we have to think how we can bring those people who lost their lovers in the wars, how we can bring him together to build a trust and to have confidence and to see the best future for both sides who are living along the Jordan River, and how we can build the peace in our area. As you know, the government, they can have a nice agreement, have nice paragraph, have nice folders, but the government, they cannot implement the peace treaty on the ground. The people, they can build the trust and they can build the peace between the countries. And for that reason, we brought Jordanian farmers with the Israeli farmers, Palestinian farmers, to know each other and to build confidence between them. And how we can bring those people together, we can bring him through the cross-border cooperation project. Me and Yossi and other Jordanian Israelis, we built some project. For example, the barn owl project in the Jordan Valley. We have now around 260 barn owl boxes along the valley in the Jordanian side. And also we have some people who are monitoring these boxes. And as you know, Jordan and Israel are very poor country in water. Jordan in particular is the third poor country in water. As you know, we have a shared border around 480 kilometers between Jordan and Israel. And we have a lot of water resources that can we develop together. For that reason, also, we have another project in water. The third program is how the Jordanian can have a good relation with the Israeli farmers. As you know, the Israeli, they are advanced in agriculture technology, and we
I would say
very close together.
I agree
and
there.
many disease
You can expect
and the flies across the border without permission and without passport. For that reason, most of the farms along the Jordan Valley are very close together. If we cannot find a program how we can protect our farms along the Jordan Valley, we cannot succeed. As you see in the pictures here, we have some Jordanian farmers, Israeli farmers, and also some of the Palestinian farmers who hold barn owls. And as Yossi said, each pair from barn owl, they eat between 2,000 to 5,000 mice and rodents a year. To implement this project along the Jordan Valley, we have people who are working in the field. We call it field officer. Those people, they are monitoring the boxes, and also they ring it the checks. This year, we have a low number of the checks because we don't have enough water in our area. I mean, the winter this year is very dry. For the reason, the number of the checks in the box is very low, and our field officers, they check all the boxes. And in 2011, Professor Yossi, Leshem, and myself, we have another partner from Lausanne University in Switzerland, Professor Alex Rollin, who joined us in this project. He is an expert in barn owls, and he wrote some books about the barn owls. And as you know, we need third party also to be with us in this kind of meetings and in this kind of project. Together, we travel to the Davos, and we go to the annual meeting in 2016 to convince the people there. As you know, this kind of project, they need a lot of money to implement. And you need money also for bringing boxes and manufacturing boxes, and also to give money for the field officer. For that reason, we go, three of us to Davos, and this is one of our visit to Switzerland. This is the president of the Switzerland. We pay a visit, myself and Yossi, in 2019, and also in that visit, the president invited the Swiss president invite 150 ambassadors from all over the world to have one day in one of the farms outside of Geneva, and we gave him a presentation, we gave him a lecture, we show him some pictures and some videos about our activity in the area. People in Europe and the United States, they thought that our area, it's a armed conflict every day. We fought each other every day. This is not the full picture and the full story. We have a lot of cooperation projects, and also we marketing our project in Europe and United States and in some places. And this is one of our visit to the Pope. It was in 2019. The Pope, he is also keen and committed to help the climate change program. And as you know, the climate change program is very close to the bird migration. The migration of the bird, they go after the water. And also we talk with the Pope and the Vatican, and we gave him some boxes, some pictures. And here we are for our colleague from Palestine. He asked not to show his picture in the video because for the political problem here in our area. And as you know, the anti-normalization movement in our area, they are very strong, and they also attack anyone who has any contact with the Israeli. And then here we have another project with the Israeli army. They called it the pest project. As you know, after we signed the agreement, the peace agreement, the Israeli army, they left the bunkers from the Jordan Valley. They left 22 bunkers along the border between Jordan and Israel. And the Israeli environmental people, in cooperation with the army, they used these bunkers for hosting the bats. And as you know, bats is very important also in the Jordan Valley. The bats eat a lot of flies in Jordan Valley. And here, myself and one of the Israeli commander, we were together in one of the bunker that used by the Israeli army. And also how we can bring the commander in the area, the army commander from both sides. We invite him. They go to the Israeli side and they met their colleagues on the other side of the border, and they visit one of the bunker, and also they talk together how they can cooperate for this project. And also in 2017, we have a big conference in the Dead Sea in the Jordanian side. We invite around 25 artists from all over the world to come to the Dead Sea. This program called it how we can give a life to the Dead Sea. As you know, the Dead Sea every year he go down 1 meter. In 2050, the Dead Sea will be a swimming pool. And for that reason, we brought kids, students from Jordan, Israel, Palestine. They met together, and they also, the artists, they teach him how they can draw some of the picture in the Jordan Valley. With this, I will finish my time, and thank you for your listening. Yossi, can you see us? Yeah, thank you.
A special event is happening. 400 pupils from Israel, Bedouins and Jews, Jordanians and Palestinians joined a cross-border art workshop in nature. Equipped with paintbrushes and musical instruments, talented artists from all over the world took a challenge to promote awareness of the drying sea. Dead is the last word one can use to describe this sea out of so many positive ways. A geological treasure of minerals and salt, and the lowest place on Earth. A hub of archaeology and heritage sites, containing desert habitats with rare animals. A unique oasis with living creatures yet to be researched. Millions of migratory birds resting on its shores along their flyway. The artist team receives its first mission in a new environment, Zarqama'in, one of the most beautiful canyons on the Jordanian side of the Dead Sea.
This is my studio, in fact. And the challenge is to, you have all of that and to put it.
We were dropped here and we've got about 3 hours. The light is changing very fast and I want to capture this fantastic light in here, so I've got to work quickly.
Time is running short for the artists, as well as for the declining water level, which is of concern on both sides of the sea.
I am sad about the Dead Sea if I compare it now with let's say 30 years ago. 30 years ago, the water arrived almost to the main road here. The Dead Sea in 30 years from now will die. It will become as a swimming pool. The only thing we can succeed and we can win to sit together around the table and to find a solution. So I am sure we can help the decision maker to give the life to the Dead Sea.
While clouds of uncertainty cast a shadow over the sea, Paul Winter, the world-renowned musician, is well aware of the region's attributes.
It's like the universal feeling that people have about children. And the same should be with our feelings toward nature. It's something that has to be preserved in any way that we can.
ים המלח הוא לא רק שלנו, הוא של כל העולם, ואנחנו כאזרחי העולם מחויבים לשמור על ים המלח.
הפרויקט הייחודי הזה שבסך הכל מקרב אנשים, ירדנים, פלסטינים, ישראלים, חקלאים שפועלים יחד.
והגיע הזמן שאנחנו נתרום לים המלח.
Professor Chakawi, please, your turn.
So first of all, I would like to express my enjoyment for the resumption of the diplomatic and political relationship between my country, the Kingdom of Morocco, and the State of Israel. And I really wish that these new ties will give another breath to the process of peace in the Middle East. And I think that from the position of the Morocco Kingdom, I'm sure that that Morocco will play, a key role to make this boost happen. So Morocco is located in the extreme northwest of Africa. The country is bordered to the north by the Mediterranean, to the west by the Atlantic, and the south and the east by the Sahara. So the climate is generally Mediterranean, with the rainfall concentrated in the cooler months between autumn and spring, except in the extreme southwest, where it can be considered to be truly Saharan. Morocco has been described as a cold country under hot sun because of the moderating influence exerted on the much of the country by the prevailing cool winds from the Atlantic. And temperatures are generally lower than a comparable latitude in countries further east in Africa. So temperatures are influenced by latitude and altitude and vary from below minus 20 degrees C in the mountains in the midwinter to over 45 degrees in the Sahara at the height of the summer. And geographically, Morocco is extraordinarily diverse and support habitat ranging from high altitude moorland through cork oak and cedar forests to wetlands, deltas, arid steppes, and deserts. And by virtue of its position opposite to Spain, on the southern side of the narrow 12 kilometers wide Strait of Gibraltar, Morocco forms an ecological bridge between Europe and Africa, with fauna and flora showing a mixture of Palearctic and Afrotropical elements. Morocco has also relatively high levels of biodiversity for a country of its size, and endemism in most animal and plants is also high. Around 3,500 to 3,750 vascular plant species have been recorded, of which more than 700 are endemic. 20 of the 100 reptile species are endemic, and 5 of the 11 amphibians, for instance, are endemic, while 7 mammals out of 110 mammal species in the country are endemic also. So as in the case of Mediterranean country, the long duration of human occupation had led to a long history of intensive human exploitation of natural resources. And because I am a bird watcher and ornithologist, Morocco, hosts more than 530 bird species that has been recorded in the country, but none are endemic. Of course, there are many endemic subspecies. For this, 2 are considered to be critically endangered, such as the slender-billed curlew, while 3 are endangered. And for instance, the northern bald ibis is one of the most spectacular birds in Morocco, while 15 are vulnerable and 17 are near threatened. And in terms of all diversity in Morocco, we count 9 species in the country, amongst which, of course, the barn owl, but other species are occupying very diverse types of habitats, and the most the recent classification of the tawny owl, which has been considered for a long time as a Strix aluco, now was uplisted as a full species, which is endemic to Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, and baptized as Maghreb tawny owl. For the case of Titu alba, which is appeared in Morocco as Muka or Hama, in the local dialect, it is a common resident, and North African birds are sometimes considered to belong to the North African race or subspecies of Erlangeri. It occurs from the sea level to the mountains, and its most of the population is sedentary, but there are, of course, occasional influx of birds coming from Western Europe, and for this we suspect that most of the European migrants belong to the subspecies of Titu alba guttata. There are, of course, some erratic movements have been also recorded, especially, in relationship to the density of rodents, and especially, but it's of course sporadic, and it depends to the from year to year. The average eggs is like it's 5 to 7 eggs per clutches, and of course they can eat up to to 200 prey sometimes per week, and they are up to. And of course, one of the main reasons for our involvement in this spectacular project that is now replacing the dove of peace to become the owl of peace is, of course, to educate farmers and students about the roles of barn owl and as a pest controller, but also to promote a non-harmful and non-invasive practice to fight against pests and disease in agriculture instead of the intensive chemical use. Protect also the barn owls and other small raptors like common kestrel or the lesser kestrel, or also the black-shouldered kite, such in urban and suburban and agri-systems areas. To establish network with scientists in the Middle East and in the rest of the Mediterranean countries, but also to exchange experience and knowledge across the North Africa and Middle East region and across the Mediterranean. But above all, and as an indirect objective, is of course to spread message of peace and cohabitation in our region. Thank you very much.
To summarize, thank you very much, Professor Cherkaoui. And to summarize our presentation, I think, three of us, we are thinking that if you join forces, you win the battle, like the barn owls who are working together to help us. I think what Shimon Peres was saying, that if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, go together. And we want to go far, and if that's the reason, we are trying to go together. So if you are joining forces, we believe you can even fish on the highway, but you have to work together. The last point is, we think that always try to think out of the box, like the barn owl who can put their head upside down by 180 degrees, and you have to focus on your target. And this I took a few years ago in South Africa. Our public bar is presently not open because it is closed management. So this is a very simple and nice message to all of us. To summarize, we hope that after Morocco, in October, they start a huge exhibition in Dubai. We were invited together with our friends from Switzerland, Professor Alex Roulen, and we will be there all together, hopefully to get the Arab Emirates joining the project, because they have millions of palm trees and the rats are eating the dates. So the barn owl will help also, hopefully, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully we see you soon in the Middle East. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all of our panelists. What an inspiring example of collaboration, of thinking outside of the box, even when you're stuck in a box. I think that's my favorite picture in there, the barn owl with his head turned upside down. We have lots of questions coming in. First one, are barn owl, from Judy, are barn owls being provided to farmers on their farm as an inducement to stop rodenticides? Is that the strategy here?
Yes, that's indeed the main issue, because the farmers, when they, not only we are putting the nesting boxes, we have also with the Jordanian and Israelis a big campaign in Arabic and Hebrew for the farmers to understand that if the barn owls are nesting in their fields, they stop to use pesticide. And at least in Israel, we are doing it since '83. The use of pesticides will be reduced between 60 to 80%. I believe the same is in Jordan, who are joining us, and hopefully in the future also in Morocco.
Also, Yossi, as you know, the Jordanian farmers and other farmers, they use a lot of chemicals in their farm. And they put the containers in the field. And when the irrigation, the farms, the chemicals goes down to the earth, down, and they poison the resources of the water in the valley.
Yeah, okay.
So we have a question about a different challenge, locusts. Are there natural methods that are being used in the region to control locust infestation and growth?
We have, the barn owls are an amazing system to reduce the use of pesticides only with rodents. But there is also a big system. There is a kibbutz in Israel, which is called Sde Eliyahu, where we started. They have a company which is called BioBee, and they are using insects like wasps, who are attacking some of the other insects. And then again, they don't have to spray chemicals on the tomatoes or on the alfalfa, which later, for example, if they are growing alfalfa, this is a food for the cow. And then the cows eat the alfalfa with the pesticide, and it comes to our meat. So there are different systems to reduce dramatically the use of pesticides. And for the insects, they have insects who are fighting it.
Professor Cherokee, how did you first learn about some of the regional cooperative activity, and what are your impressions based on your involvement?
Well, first of all, I was invited to Jordan by General Monsoor to attend, a workshop to present the first, results about this impressive program on barn owl at the Middle East that brings together Palestinians and Israelis and Jordanian, to explore this fascinating world of the barn owl. So when I was invited along with other colleagues from Tunisia, for instance, and if I remember from the other countries, but I was so impressed by this approach to bring people from the Middle East, but also from other Mediterranean countries like Greece and Morocco and Tunisia. And we sat all together to learn from this wonderful experience. And I had this idea really to expand this collaboration to other countries, namely in the northwestern African countries like in Morocco. And I think there is quite good opportunities also to work for barn owls in Morocco, because let's say that the owls are not really loved by or liked by most of the population, while they play very good ecological roles and also they help keeping the ecosystems healthy. So I thought that we can make this approach to bring people, but also to spread education messages through this project on barn owls, and to showcase how those birds can play roles to fighting against pests without using chemicals. This is something really fascinating, and I start all the small scale projects with my students, to spread out kinds of this message. But also I appreciate this change in the approach. While we tried with the Dove of Peace for many years, and but I think that barn owls has played another role in to approach people, especially to approach people from the state of Israel, from Jordan, and also from Palestine, to sit all together and to work all together to for the protection of the barn owl at the Middle East. So I really appreciate this approach, and I want also to contribute, since now that as I said in the beginning of my talk, that the resumption of the relationships between Morocco and Israel will give, further and another boost to these ties.
That's really a great vision going forward. It sounds like we need a PR campaign for the barn owl. But while we're the reality of both the symbol of what this project represents and the beautiful anecdote that you shared, that the Israeli and Jordanian barn owls have actually produced offspring. So we're talking about the future generations of peace and collaboration in a way. General Monsoor, what are you most proud of at this point? You and Professor Leshem have been doing this together for many years. You've seen setbacks, you've seen advances. What are the tangible achievements so far that you see that you're the most proud of now?
Okay, the first thing that we can change in our area, that the barn owl in our tradition is a bad luck. And most of the people, especially the farmers and the people who are living outside of the cities, when they look at the barn owl, they said the barn owl is a bad luck. And we don't want to deal with the barn owls. And this is our problem in the beginning of the project, how we can convince those people to be a part of the project. Then we use the education in the schools. We also ask the imam and sheikh from the mosques when they have a Friday speech with the people in the mosque. We ask him to talk about the benefit of the barn owls, what the farmers can get from the barn owls if they are hosting the boxes in their farm. And this is the story beginning. And as you know, I am a general, army general. I am not an expert in the birds or environment. But after working closely with Professor Yossi and his colleagues, maybe I became a little bit knows about the fruitful of using the barn owls. And also, this is my objective, to bring the people together. This is very important. And we want tools to bring those people who are living along the border, how you can bring him together to talk and to sit and to eat together, and how they can continue their relation in the future. We brought those people to the meeting, and after that, they exchange emails, they exchange telephone number, and they starting to talk together. And until now, you can see hundreds of friends on the both sides of the border, they talking in the events, if we have Ramadan, or if they have Yom Kippur, or if they have Independence Day, those people, they talk to congratulate each other. This is very important, to bring people together and to build a peace between the community and the two sides.
Professor Leshem, you brought Paul Winter, you brought students, you brought politicians, you've brought people from different countries into this coalition. What's next? What do you see as the possibilities for the future?
I think that, for example, Professor Chikawi, after he will be running the project in Morocco, you know, Israel has no political relations with Algeria, for example, and Tunisia. We cannot go there and discuss with them. But I think that Professor Chikawi will be the ambassador of the barnhouse and do the job. And General Monsoor Abu Rashid can do it in Syria and Lebanon, because he is in the Jordanian, he goes all over. And of course, when we go to the Emiratus, the general will be a key person in our activity. So I believe this is like throwing a stone in the ocean, and the waves are becoming bigger and bigger. And of course, the first thing is the environmental thing, to reduce use of pesticide. But I think the most important is to get people together, and the farmers and the scientists and the conservationists, after, as the general already said, when we are becoming friends, and suddenly they see this both sides of the border are nice people when they have the same purpose. So I think the burnout is only a platform to get the people together, and hopefully this will be a small part of the peace.
Professor Cherkarian, are you willing to be an ambassador in addition to all the other roles you're playing at the moment as a scientist and as an academic?
You asking me?
No, I think, did he freeze?
Professor Chikawi.
Yes, Professor.
Can you please repeat the question? I didn't hear very well.
Professor Leshem nominated you to be the ambassador for the barn owl. Are you willing to take on that role for the future as well?
Yes, it will be my pleasure for that. Absolutely.
Well, this program has demonstrated for sure that the very real work and collaboration of scientists and of people of goodwill can make some facts. And each one of you is really a testament to what the future could look like in the Middle East region if we can only learn from our animal friends. That there are ways to work together, to collaborate, and indeed, in this case, for all of humanity to collaborate. Thank you for covering more ground than I can even imagine. That's what obviously you learned from the birds. You've got to cover a lot of ground. We covered over 100 slides of material that showed the migrating birds, that showed the projects were involved, that showed the coalition of people around the world who have taken an interest in this. And this is exactly what we at the America-Israel Friendship League are dedicated to. We've now had over 120 of these live webinars, which we do every Wednesday and every Sunday, bringing people together, not just from the United States and Israel, but from around the world. We're so grateful for the advances that we've seen during this most difficult year on so many fronts, when we were humbled by nature. And now hopefully we can learn from and listen from nature as well. We invite everybody to join us this coming Sunday. We have a program on Israel literature that features a prominent Israeli novelist. We invite you to join us back each week for these different episodes. And thank you again for your time. All the best.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.